In the 5th century, while most of the world could barely count the stars, one man sat alone in a dim study in ancient China. No calculator, no computer, no colleague, and arrived at a number so precise, so breathtaking, that Europe would not surpass it for over 1,000 years. His name was Zu Chongji, and the number was pi. Welcome to Numbers and Narratives by BlessRight, the channel where the greatest mathematical and historical stories of human civilization come alive. I am your narrator, and today we are traveling back 15 centuries into one of the most extraordinary, most overlooked chapters in the entire history of mathematics. If you are new here, please subscribe and hit the notification bell right now, because every single week we uncover the stories behind the numbers that built our world. If you are already part of this family, welcome back. And before we go any further, I want to warn you, stay with this video until the very end, because buried in the final moments of this story is one striking, almost unbelievable detail about Zu Chongji that very few people in the world know. It is the kind of detail that will stop you mid-breath. Do not click away. Now, let us begin. The year is 429 AD. The Han Dynasty has collapsed. China is fractured, bleeding, and burning under the weight of endless civil war. The country is split between the northern kingdoms and the southern dynasties, a land caught between survival and chaos. It is into this world of fire and uncertainty that Zu Chongji is born. He arrives in the Liu Song dynasty in what is now Hebei province in northern China. He is born into a family of astronomers and government officials, men who have spent generations watching the heavens, recording the movement of the stars, and advising emperors on matters of time and the cosmos. Mathematics is not merely a subject in this household. It is a way of seeing the world. From boyhood, Zu Chongji is consumed by numbers. While other children play, he calculates. While other young men pursue rank and glory, he pursues truth, the quiet, immovable truth hidden inside mathematics. His father recognizes this gift early and feeds it relentlessly, teaching him astronomy, engineering, and the classical mathematical texts of China's great scholars before him. He grows up reading the 9 chapters on the mathematical art, the ancient Chinese mathematical masterpiece, and the works of Liu Hui, the 3rd century genius who had already pushed the approximation of pi further than anyone before him. Zu Chongji devours these texts, but he does not stop there, because Zu Chongji is not the kind of man who is satisfied with the work of those who came before him. He needs to go further, and so he does. Now, let us pause for a moment. Let us understand exactly what pi is and why it matters so much that a man in 5th century China would dedicate years of his life to it. Pi, represented by the Greek letter pi, is the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. It is one of the most fundamental constants in all of mathematics. It appears in the calculation of areas, volumes, the motion of planets, the design of buildings, the structure of waves, the behavior of fluids. Without an accurate value of pi, you cannot build a precise arch. You cannot chart the exact path of the moon. You cannot calculate the capacity of a grain silo. You cannot design a water wheel that will carry the load of an empire. Pi is not just a number. Pi is the key to the physical world, and for thousands of years, civilizations across the globe had been hunting it. The ancient Babylonians approximated pi as 3.125. The Egyptians used roughly 3.16. The brilliant Archimedes of Syracuse, working in the 3rd century BC, had narrowed it down magnificently, proving that pi lay between 3 and 10 over 71 and 3 and 1/7, giving the approximation 3.1416 to 4 decimal places. And for centuries, that was as far as anyone had gone. Then came Zu Chongji, working alone, without modern instruments, without any form of mechanical computation, using only brushes, ink, and counting rods, the ancient Chinese tools of arithmetic, and the extraordinary, almost supernatural power of his own mind. Zu Chongji calculated pi to 7 decimal places, 3.1415926. More precisely, he established that pi lies between 3.1415926 and 3.1415927. Let that sink in. The year is somewhere around 480 AD. There are no Arabic numerals yet in widespread use. There is no algebra as we know it. There is no notation for decimals as a formal system. And this man, working in a politically unstable, war-torn empire, has computed pi more accurately than any human being in the history of the world up to that point. How did he do it? The method Zu Chongji used was a refinement of the polygon approximation technique, the same method pioneered by Archimedes and expanded upon by Liu Hui. The idea is elegant in its simplicity. When you draw a circle, then you inscribe a polygon inside it, a shape with many sides, and you calculate its perimeter. Because the polygon's perimeter is close to the circle's circumference, the ratio gives you an approximation of pi. The more sides your polygon has, the closer you get to the true circle, and the more accurate your approximation of pi becomes. Liu Hui had done this with a 3,072-sided polygon, an astonishing feat, and arrived at pi as approximately 3.14159. But Zu Chongji went further. Modern scholars believe he may have used a polygon with 12,288 sides or even 24,576 sides. Each additional side required more calculations. Each step compounded the complexity, and each calculation was done entirely by hand. Think about that. 12,288 sides, no mistakes permitted. A single arithmetic error at any step would corrupt all the work that followed. This was not just mathematics. This was an act of iron-willed, monumental human discipline. He also introduced what he called the milieu, the close ratio, as a fractional approximation of pi, 355 divided by 113. This fraction is astonishing. It is accurate to 6 decimal places, 3.1415929, and it remained the most accurate fractional approximation of pi in the entire world for nearly 1,000 years. No mathematician in India, in the Islamic world, in Europe, came close to it until the late 15th and 16th centuries. In Europe, the mathematician Adriaan van Roomen would not reach 10 decimal places until 1593 AD, more than 1,100 years after Zu Chongji had already left 7 behind. 1,100 years. When that is not a gap in knowledge, that is a chasm. That is the distance between continents. And yet, most people today have never heard the name Zu Chongji. But pi was not the full measure of this man. Zu Chongji was not merely a mathematician. He was an engineer, a scientist, an astronomer, a philosopher, a man of the rarest and most complete kind of intellectual greatness. In astronomy, he created a new calendar, the Daming calendar, which was so precise it corrected centuries of accumulated error in the official Chinese calendrical system. His calendar calculated the length of the tropical year with extraordinary accuracy. He determined that there were 365.24281,481 days in a year. The actual value is 365.24219,878 days. He was off by less than 1 minute per year, 1 minute per year, in the 5th century AD. His calendar also accounted for the precession of the equinoxes, a phenomenon that the ancient Greeks had identified, but which Chinese astronomers had never properly incorporated into their calendrical mathematics. Zu Chongji changed that. He observed, he calculated, and he corrected. But here is where the story takes a painful turn, because genius in any age does not guarantee recognition. And in the court of the Liu Song dynasty, Zu Chongji encountered something all too familiar to great minds across all of history: resistance. When he presented his Daming calendar to the imperial court, it was met with fierce opposition. The chief court official, a man named Dai Faxing, rejected it. Dai Faxing was not a mathematician, he was a politician, and he used his political influence to block the adoption of the calendar, in arguing that it was improper to abandon the traditional systems of the ancient sages. Zu Chongji fought back. He wrote a detailed, systematic rebuttal, dismantling Dai Faxing's objections one by one with cold mathematical precision. His arguments were brilliant, his evidence was overwhelming, and still, for years, the calendar was rejected. It would not be officially adopted until 10 years after Zu Chongji's death. The world was not always ready for the truth, but the truth waited. In engineering, Zu Chongji's achievements were equally breathtaking. He redesigned the south-pointing chariot, an ancient Chinese mechanical device that used a differential gear system to always point south, regardless of which direction the vehicle turned. The principles behind that machine are the same principles that would later underpin some of the greatest mechanical inventions in human history. He also built a 1,000-li boat, a vessel said to travel extraordinarily fast, powered by mechanical paddle wheels. He designed water-powered mills and other mechanical devices that defied the engineering expectations of his age. Some historians have called him the Leonardo da Vinci of China, a man of almost impossible versatility, a man who could not look at the world without seeking to understand it more deeply and build it more perfectly. And through all of this, he remained humble. He did not seek to glorify himself. He sought truth. He sought precision. He sought the hidden order beneath the surface of a chaotic and suffering world. In 500 AD, or close to it, Zu Chongji died. He was approximately 71 years old. He left behind a body of work that should have changed the course of human history, and in many ways quietly did, even if his name went unspoken for centuries in the West. His mathematical masterwork, the Zhui Shu, or method of interpolation, was one of the most advanced mathematical texts in the world at the time of its writing. For centuries, it was one of 10 official mathematical classics, required study for government examinations in China and later in Japan. And then, at some unknown point in history, the original text was lost. Lost to time, lost to war, lost to the fragility of paper and the indifference of centuries. We do not have the Zhui Shu today. We know of it only through references in other texts. We can see the shadow of his genius in the records left by other scholars. But the original voice and the original hand is gone. There is something deeply sorrowful about that. A man who achieved so much, whose mind reached so far into the future, whose work was ahead of his time by a full millennium, and yet the very document that contained his greatest discoveries did not survive. But numbers, unlike paper, do not burn. The value of pi he calculated, 3.1415926, survived. The fraction 355 over 113 survived. The Daming calendar survived in the records of historians. His south-pointing chariot survived in the chronicles of the dynasty, and his legacy, though long delayed in reaching the West, has at last begun to receive the recognition it deserves. Today in China, pi is sometimes called Zu's ratio, Sulu in Chinese. It is a small, quiet tribute in a language most of the world does not speak. But it is there. It endures. In 1967, the International Astronomical Union, the global body responsible for naming celestial features, named a crater on the moon after him, crater Zu Chongji. There is also a minor planet, asteroid 1888, that bears his name, drifting in silence through the solar system. And in 2020, China's Chang'e 5 lunar mission, the mission that brought back samples from the moon's surface, landed at a site called the Zu Chongji crater. A man born into a world of counting rods and bamboo strips now has his name written in the stars. And now, as I promised, the detail that most people never hear. The detail that may stop you mid-breath. When Zu Chongji computed pi to 7 decimal places in approximately 480 AD, it set a world record that would stand for nearly 1,000 years. The next person to surpass it was the Persian mathematician Al-Kashi in 1424 AD, who pushed pi to 16 decimal places. But here is what is striking. Here is what almost no one tells you. When European mathematicians finally began to seriously compute pi in the 15th and 16th centuries, when they believed they were doing something new, something pioneering, they were unknowingly just catching up to a Chinese civil servant who had done it in a dim room with a brush and counting rods over 1,000 years before they were born. Europe did not know about Zu Chongji. His name did not travel west on the Silk Road. His books were not translated into Arabic or Latin. The information was simply absent. And so brilliant men in Persia, in India, in Europe worked toward a milestone that had already been planted long before, by a quiet genius on the other side of the world. This is not a story about East versus West. It is not a story about competition. It is a story about what happens when human knowledge is fragmented, when the achievements of one civilization fail to cross the borders that politics and language erect between peoples. It is a story about loss, and about what might have been if the world had been better connected. Imagine if Zu Chongji's work had reached the Islamic Golden Age scholars in Baghdad. Imagine if al-Khwarizmi had known about the Zhui Shu. Imagine what the cumulative, connected genius of the entire human race could have produced centuries earlier if one extraordinary man's discoveries had not been sealed behind language and geography. We will never know, but we know this. Zu Chongji lived, he calculated. He reached into the infinite mystery of pi and pulled out a truth that no human mind before his had ever touched. He did it alone. He did it in an era of war. He did it without recognition, without the global platform that genius deserves. And the universe, in its own quiet way, remembered him anyway. His crater sits on the moon tonight, untouched and still. His asteroid drifts in orbit, carrying his name through the silence of space. And his number, 3.1415926, lives inside every calculation that touches a circle, every formula that describes a curve, every equation that traces the arc of the physical world. Zu Chongji did not just calculate pi. He proved something more important than any number. He proved that the human mind, given nothing but time, discipline, summer, and the will to seek truth, can reach places that the rest of the world will not arrive at for 1,000 years. That is the story of Zu Chongji, the pi genius who was 1,000 years ahead of Europe. If this story moved you, if it made you feel the weight of what one human mind can achieve, please like this video right now. Share it with someone who loves history or mathematics or simply the truth. Every share puts this story in front of someone who has never heard this name, and they deserve to hear it. Subscribe to Numbers and Narratives by BlessRight and join a community that believes the greatest stories ever told are the ones written in numbers. I will see you in the next story.